Today we have some really good news, and it is all about the Cybertruck. We've had the Cybertruck now for about a year here going to customers, and prices when it launched were much higher than expected. That said, we anticipated seeing the tax credit available for the Cybertruck. So the Foundation Series was a $20,000 markup, but there was this anticipation that, of course, it would qualify for the tax credit like every other Tesla that is within the price threshold of its category. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and I'm sure there are many reasons for that. I have my own opinion on that, but that is neither here nor there because all of 2024, the Cybertruck did not qualify for the tax credit. Here we are in 2025, and guess what? The Cybertruck now does qualify for the tax credit. But that's not it. There's actually some more here to look into that I kind of want to dissect because it looks like Tesla might be getting ready to release possibly the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck. So make sure you stick around to the end. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to break this down and show you just how big of an impact this really is and what it means for the future for the rest of this year. And what should you do about this? Because as we go into a new uncertain time politically, these tax credits might be under attack. So if you would, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. With that, let's dive into the details. And this is exactly what we were hoping to start the new year with. This is great news. If we go to fueleconomy.gov, this is where you can find all the information on vehicles that are qualified. So we want to look at January 2025 to December of 2025, and I'm going to go ahead and narrow this down to Tesla just to make this a little bit easier. And indeed, you can see the Cybertruck is now listed as tax credit eligible. Interestingly enough, the Cybertruck was on this list before it launched to customers outside of Tesla, and it went away before it started delivering. So it's unclear what happened between now and then, but we're not going to talk about that today because what matters is starting today, you can now get the tax credit on the Cybertruck. That is a big deal. So if we go back here to last year and look at Tesla, you can see the Cybertruck is nowhere to be found on this list. So this is new as of this morning, which is fantastic, starting the new year off with a bang. But I don't know if you saw that. We also have the single motor listed here as well. And this means that Tesla has sent in the information and certified the qualification of the single motor Cybertruck. What exactly is the single motor Cybertruck? So if you remember back at launch, what we had was 3 variants that were announced. And this was similar to the original announcement, except for the range numbers, and of course the price, which is significantly higher. The rear-wheel drive, as an example, originally was announced at $39,900 and is up now about $22,000 at $60,990. This gets you 250 miles of range, 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. Of course, all this time we've been seeing the all-wheel drive and the Cyber Beast being sold at $80,000 and $100,000. So really, only the all-wheel drive under $80,000 was technically qualified from a price perspective, but Tesla did not certify the all-wheel drive for 2024. That means regardless of if it's now qualified, you do not get this tax credit if you bought a Cybertruck in 2024. Looking over at Tesla's website, nothing here has changed. And even when we go all the way down to the bottom, we still don't have any details on the rear-wheel drive. So what exactly are we going to see with this rear-wheel drive? Is it just going to be literally the same truck with a single motor in the rear? I think there's probably a good chance this is going to be a very trimmed down version of the Cybertruck that we see today. I did want to quickly look over an inventory though, because we've seen a lot of people post pictures of having a bunch of inventory in the area. In my area, still only Foundation Series is available, and it's only all-wheel drives that are available. These would not be tax credit qualified because the price is too high, and it's a 2024 model year anyways, meaning that it would not be qualified with this new 2025 certification. There's also another piece to this, and Tesla just had a $2,000 referral credit for the Cybertruck. It has gone right back down to $1,000. The good news is you can still get that $1,000 off with a referral code, bringing this to $78,990. But what's more important is looking at this big picture. So here are our three trims, and assuming nothing changes with prices, which I think there's a good chance all-wheel drive and Cyberbeast could see potential price changes, the rear-wheel drive would come in at $60,990. Now, with that tax credit, we now have a tax credit eligibility for the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive, bringing us to 53,490, 72,490, and of course Cyberbeast still at $100,000 because it does not qualify. At 53,490, this is an incredible price for the Cybertruck. Again, assuming we don't lose too much on what the Cybertruck is in its all-wheel drive configuration other than performance. Even at 72,490, this is giving you a ton of truck right smack dab in the lower middle of what trimmed out trucks are today, gas or electric. So 72,490 is a really good deal. We do have that referral credit available, and that would technically be available on all three trims. And then we also have the military credit that recently was released in 2024. Gives us a new price of 51,490 for rear-wheel drive potentially, 70,490 for all-wheel drive today, and 97,990 for the Cyberbeast today. So this is, you can literally go into Tesla if they had an all-wheel drive in base configuration and get it for 70,490 with all these incentives. Same with the Cyberbeast. This is all assuming nothing changes with the rear-wheel drive. This is what you would be looking at. And it's important to note with this tax credit, the maximum MSRP on that vehicle cannot exceed $80,000. So you cannot add any options. You cannot get the better, bigger, nicer cyber wheels. You cannot get the white interior. You've got to stay with tactical gray. Those are really the only two options available, but you cannot get either of those. Otherwise, you forfeit this tax credit because you would now be outside of that $80,000 cap. Good thing about that is you can easily get takeoff wheels from somebody of the cyber wheels or get some aftermarket wheels that look much better than the core wheels and take that $7,500. This is really a big deal because this takes things from pretty significant prices down to closer to where the market is at. Now, this still does not get us to the price we anticipated for all-wheel drives. The rear-wheel drive, we are still $11,000, $12,000 high at this price. And then of course the Cyberbeast were $30,000 or so outside of what we were originally promised. Looking at this compared side by side, this is really where you want to start to understand there are some pieces we do not know yet about what the rear-wheel drive will offer. And this could really have an impact on, is this really worth the price difference between rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive? So 250 miles is not a lot of range, especially in a truck and especially today. Now, there are other EV trucks that do offer range in this ballpark, but in my opinion, that's pretty low. That said, my all-wheel drive is getting something like 95% of its stated EPA range at 70 miles an hour. So that's probably a very realistic number on the highway. 6.50 to 60 versus 4.1 versus 2.6. And then our top speed, horsepower, torque, towing, we don't know. And of course, all-wheel drive and Cyberbeast both boast an 11,000 pound towing capacity. Another thing that these two boast is a 2,500 pound carrying capacity for the cargo in your bed. This rear-wheel drive hopefully won't lose its payload capacity of 2,500. That is a huge payload for a half-ton truck, essentially. Now, the big question, is it worth $19,000 difference between all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, which is what this would essentially be, and $27,500 to go from all-wheel drive to Cyberbeast? It's a huge price difference, and that is a lot because we have $7,500 in tax credit, and then the other incentives are both available on these with the referral and the military program. But $27,500, and it's a big question. It's a lot of money. Is it worth $100,000 for Cyberbeast versus $70,000 for all-wheel drive? I mean, as it sits right now, fastest truck in the world that you can buy today, is that worth $27,500? I don't know, probably, but that is all going to change as more competition hits the road. And I think we're going to see a lot of price pressure on all-wheel drive and Cyberbeast once the rear-wheel drive comes out. So this is fantastic news. This is definitely going to move the needle. A lot of people, once a Foundation Series was over, we had another round of people who were purchasing Cybertruck, and a lot of people continued to hold off knowing this tax credit was coming. It's finally here. So you can now get into an all-wheel drive Cybertruck, a ton of truck, an amazing truck. I can't stress that enough, how amazing this truck is for $70,000, 70,500, somewhere in that ballpark. That is amazing. That is a ton of truck. Smooth, fast, good range, awesome charging network. The thing can do so much more than your average truck can do. And the pricing at $70,000, again, you're right there in the ballpark of what the market is for a trimmed out truck like this, gas or electric. So I think that the price is good. It could be better, and it's going to get better over time, no doubt about it. I also want to stress the importance of how this tax credit works. Basically, if and only if you transfer this 7,500 to Tesla at time of purchase, you will get 100% of that as long as you meet the income threshold. So $150,000 adjusted gross for individuals, 300,000 adjusted gross for joint filers. Just transfer that credit. You will get all of it at time of purchase. You do not have to have tax liability to be able to cover this as long as you meet that income threshold. The alternative is to wait until you file your taxes, in which case your income and your tax liability would have to give you enough to be able to hit that $7,500. So this is not a refundable tax credit. However, if you transfer it, the IRS will not be going for clawback, meaning if you took the $7,500 at time of purchase and you only had $4,000 in tax liability, you're not going to have to pay back that $3,500 just on this tax credit as long as you transfer it to the dealer. Otherwise, if you do it at time of filing your taxes, you will only get up to the maximum tax liability you have, assuming, again, you meet those income thresholds. So that's it for today. Fantastic news for the Cybertruck. This is a big step that a lot of people have been waiting for. I'm very excited to see when this rear-wheel drive comes out and what exactly it's going to look like as far as some of the options trim. Will it have four-wheel steer? Maybe that's one of the things that goes on the chopping block. Will it have the air suspension? Maybe it won't. I don't know. $20,000 is a lot of money that they're going to have to cut out of this thing. It can't all be done with a smaller battery. So that is it for today. I thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.